going to get even better. So
that's right.
Hang on. All right, should we kick it off? Welcome to the new community conversations hosted by the Autodesk community. Our community conversations are new live virtual events designed to allow you to gain expertise, connect with leaders in your field, and grow your network. My name is Chris Benner, and I will be your community host today. It is my pleasure to welcome the talented Tiffany Bachmeier, who will be discussing all things AutoCAD Electrical with an open question and answer session. So we'll start off with some quick introductions. As I said, my name is Chris. I'm the Community Manager for Product Design and Manufacturing here at Autodesk. I've been with Autodesk for just under a year. And before that, I was a customer for over 20 years using AutoCAD, AutoCAD Electrical, Inventor, and Vault. And having spoken at Autodesk University several times, I had the pleasure of actually meeting our expert speaker for today. So without any further ado, let me hand it over to Tiffany to introduce herself, and then I'll be back to take care of some housekeeping items before we let her take the mic for the rest of the session. Tiffany?
Thank you so much, Chris, and welcome everybody. Great to see you all. Excited to be here. I know many names and faces on here, but for those of you who don't know me, I lead a manufacturing and automotive consulting team here at Autodesk, and one of my rock star consultants on my team is actually joining me as well today. We're going to have to get your face up on these slides too, Matt, but yes. Matt Durst is here with us, and he is a Vault expert as well. So he joins me to support any additional questions that we get around AutoCAD Electrical and Vault, and often helps me along with the entire talented team of Chris, Kate, and others that we are all, and Rachel, all here together to be able to read the questions as they're coming in. And I'm sure that Chris will get to the rest of the housekeeping on talking about how to do those questions. But great to be here. Great to see you all.
All right. Thanks, Tiffany. So yes, before we begin with the session, there's just a few things I needed to let you know about. Everyone's line is muted to reduce background noise. We do invite you to keep your camera turned on if you're comfortable doing so that we can get as close as possible to a physical environment in our wonderful new virtual world. If you, this conversation is something, we want this to be exactly that, a conversation. If you have a question or comment, please use the Zoom raise hand function and our moderator will unmute you. Tiffany's going to be taking questions throughout the session and using those to guide the discussion. You can also type questions in the chat at any time. This session is being recorded and will be emailed to all attendees and uploaded to our community conversation site. Please note that by participating in this session, you do consent to being recorded. And very quickly, our safe harbor statement. If we make any forward-looking statements during this session, please do not use these to make any purchasing decisions. If you're making purchasing decisions at this time, look at the software in its current state today and that alone. So just a bit about this series. Our community conversations provide opportunities for engineers, designers, artists, and makers to meet in a safe live virtual setting to share expertise, get to know leaders in their field, and grow their community network. The sessions are always supported by the Autodesk Community Managers to help guide the conversation, feed important insights back from the community to Autodesk, and support participants in getting connected to the expertise they need. So that's enough for me for now. I'll be back at the end of the session with a few closing notes, but for now, here's Tiffany.
Thank you again. And Trond, I saw your note about the hammock. I think that you fall into that category of joining whilst on a holiday. So that's amazing. Thank you for being here. And Randy Burnett, I see your smiling face. So great to have you on. Excited to have you as a part of the team. Eileen, Randy is another absolute expert in this field. So always great to have him. And I'm excited to be able to lean on people like him and Trond and others that join in here as we truly want to make this a community conversation. So it's not just about me talking at you all or only me answering questions. I love to get the wider thoughts. So I encourage you all to not only ask questions, but also feel free to jump in if you have thoughts on somebody else's question. I think it would be great to drive even more conversation here. All right. So with that said, I don't know if I'm seeing, I think there was a comment in here, and Claire, I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm not sure if others have questions right out of the gate. If you want to be unmuted, please feel free to do so or ask for that and we can unmute you. Or feel free to start typing your questions in the question or in the chat pane. Tron, we see you in the in the hammock. I love it. It's amazing. Good to see you too, sir. I haven't seen you in a while. Good deal. So for those of you who have not actually been here before, just to reiterate, as I'm looking to see if any questions pop up in here, this is open for anything beginner, intermediate, advanced. Feel free to ask any questions you have while you're working with electrical. As I mentioned, we have Matt Durst here. He can also answer questions of the connection with data management and Vault. We can speak to those aspects of things as well if you're digging in on that side. Happy to answer. I know we often are joined by a lot of our friends and colleagues in the utility business, and Randy is an absolute expert in that and how electrical is being utilized that way. So we will lean on him. So feel free, any and all questions. And I will let you all know, we have had an update to the software. There's been a lot of updates around manufacturer information being updated and additions being made to our catalogs and our symbol libraries. So that was new in the latest release, and I may do a little, it probably won't be on this one, but in our next session, I will hopefully do a little walkthrough of any of those new features just so you can kind of see what happened in the new software. This would be 2022 as the new version. Hal, thanks for asking that question. And let's see, Claire, what did you said something about video? That using video, uses more energy. All the climate talk and energy. That's very interesting. I had not heard that. That's really interesting. Very, very interesting, Claire, and good to dig into on sustainability to understand if that's the case. I actually, when I briefly read it, I thought you meant, when you said energy, I thought you meant drove more energy, meaning more excitement on a call, which is always why I like being on video, because I feel more connected to everybody. But that's a good call out for us all to be more aware of sustainability and the things that we can do. All right, and Matt, I'm probably going to let you take over for reading these for me, but I'm looking at the first one right now. So Don just said, may have been addressed before, but why do I have to refresh every time I make a change in the project manager just to see the changes? Don, that's a great question. So I would actually want to dig in a little bit and find out why you feel like you're needing to do a full refresh. And if you don't mind coming off mute, I would love to maybe ask you some questions about that, because there are times where we refresh doing the little looks like a little recycling button on our project manager to see an update, but that's not an always. In fact, most of the time for me, those things do happen live and I don't need to do that. I tend to have to do that if I'm having processing challenges on my computer, or if I want to really make sure I'm seeing something and it hasn't somehow done its own automatic refresh, and so I need to actively go press it, but it's definitely not an every time. And like I said, I normally notice it when I have a lot of things open and things are perhaps slower. There are a few things, nothing's coming to mind immediately that is almost always needing or requiring a refresh, but I do feel like there have been things through the years where I've noticed I tend to have to refresh more when I do that, but for the most part that should happen live. And it looks like you've got a ditto on your question, so it seems like
there's a couple of dittos on that.
Yeah, it looks like quite a few of you are having that. That's interesting. And maybe something that I need to Randy, that's helpful. You can come off mute to say that. You're all good. Wait. You're not off mute yet.
Let's unmute him.
Oh, I thought we gave him access. Okay.
There
we go. Nope. Now you're back.
How's this?
Now we can hear you. All right.
Poor souls. Yeah, one of the main reasons why that happens is for any tools that have to access the Scratch database. That gets updated automatically a
Yep.
lot of times, but if you're doing something that's live, the SDS toolkit for the utility industry accesses the Scratch database a lot for its searches and pieces and things. And that's where that refresh piece comes in then as well, right? So you need to save often and hit that refresh button to see those updates.
That makes sense, especially with something that's an add-on like the toolkit. I'm curious if that's where a lot of people are having this issue, or I'm wondering, I saw somebody say something about last year. Now, I didn't notice that being a challenge in the 2021 release. But curious to know if that was something, and maybe something I can share back with the product team if people were seeing that could be a service pack that we update if there was that issue coming through. Tron found a refresh problem fix on the Knowledge Network. Was that from this last year?
Well,
Tron, how are you sending links from your hammock? I don't even, that's impressive.
It's a known, this is a known issue. So especially when adding drawings and so on, it's a known issue that it won't refresh automatically.
Adding drawings, yes.
There is a fix to that. So yeah, you should be able to have a look at that link and you should be able to fix that. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So adding drawings specifically, I can see that. That seemed more general in the comment, but fair point on the adding drawings. Absolutely. And Becker, you're commenting that it's more of the adding folders, drawings, changing folder names. That's interesting. The adding drawings I have seen. Adding folders and changing names, I don't seem to, because I do that often when I'm showing how to add a folder and put a new thing in, and I don't see a refresh being needed there, but interesting if some people are experiencing it more. It does make me wonder if it could be related externally to other things happening on your computer, like if there are certain things for refresh rates on software and such. But it's good. It's really good feedback. I will share it with the product team and see if I can't get you more answers on perhaps the issue that they delved into there.
Here's a question that may I don't know if this could shed some light or not, but are these vault projects?
That is a great question.
Because I always worked in Vault, and I would see this from time to time working with Vault and AutoCAD Electrical.
I was going to mention that as well. Vault, especially if you're doing something with that cross links pieces inside of Vault, sub projects kind of stuff.
And Matt, is that have to do more with us pulling the data from Vault to ensure constantly that there's not somebody else that's checked something out or pulled from it? Could that be why that list is refreshing? I guess I haven't done a test on the Vault side.
Yeah, so I mean, they did mention that it's not vaulted, but when you do have a connection to another system, like another Microsoft SQL database where people can make updates and edits, yeah, there is that moment where your information of what you're seeing is out of date. Think about it, if it were constantly refreshing, that'd be very taxing on the system, and that'd be a performance issue overall.
Yeah, that makes sense. A slight topic twist from there, and I am seeing some additional comments in there, and Matt, maybe stop me if I've missed something else in the mix of all these chats, but I see from, is it Sissy? I see whom may help me with a copy command from Excel to AutoCAD. So I'm curious, do you mean vanilla AutoCAD, and is it just a table from Excel that you're trying to move into AutoCAD, or is it something specific with electrical? I can speak to both, but I'm just curious.
Yes, excuse me, Tiffany. Yeah, I have like Excel. You cannot hear me. Sorry.
I can barely hear you. Yeah.
Better now. Hello.
A little better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. So I have like a command. I have a bunch of commands on Excel. I'm trying to copy paste to my AutoCAD drawing. So this is not electrical. This is like mechanical AutoCAD, whatever regular AutoCAD, not electrical.
Okay.
So I'm working for a manufacturer pipeline company.
Okay.
So since, I don't know, like 2016 or wait a minute, maybe 2000, maybe 2009. I cannot, after we renew, we have the new version of AutoCAD. I cannot copy paste it to the AutoCAD anymore.
Okay. I'd probably want to see it a little bit more specifically, but there have been updates since, and actually the releases you were mentioning, there were some new enhancements made to how we bring in data from Excel into AutoCAD so that AutoCAD could actually reference it just like Excel. The new AutoCAD tables actually have capabilities of doing a lot of the things that Excel can do, where it can concatenate data, it can put in a lot of the different formulas. You can drag by dragging the corners and have it fill in all of the additional cells just like you can do in Excel. And so when we used to paste in and it would just kind of come in as an object, the OLE object opportunities in it have changed. And so there's different special options for pasting. So paste special, where you can paste it as an AutoCAD object, which means it would come in as an AutoCAD table and be able to have more functionality to it. You can have it linked as an OLE object where it can be getting updated from Excel and then link back into AutoCAD. So there's a couple different options there that, and I'm not sure specifically which one you're trying to achieve with that, but maybe that helps if you, as opposed to just trying to copy paste, if you actually use some of the right click options, or even in the insert panel of the ribbon, that you actually go in there and look at some of the different options that you can utilize when going from Excel. That may help.
Yes, I tried all different, like you mentioned about the corner, whatever, didn't work at all. So
okay.
Yeah, for example, I have like a template drawing, and I have a command listed by the Excel. I just try to copy all the command to the drawing, so can help me save some kind of time finishing my drawing as soon as possible, but it's not work at all.
Yeah, Tiffany, maybe we can get an example of that.
Yeah.
And we can look into that a little bit more.
Agreed.
Yeah, Sissy. So I have that jotted down. I did take note of that. So we do have a couple other questions coming in, Tiffany. So actually we'll go back up a little bit. So Mark asks us, he's aware of the multiple insert of components and would like to be able to do the same with source arrows. I know each gets a specific code. Is there any way to do so?
That's a great question.
And I can repeat it here in the chat just so everyone else that wants to read it.
Oh, that's helpful, Matt. Thank you, because I was scrolling like crazy through the last one with that, trying to find where I was.
I got you. Yep, I got you. I got them all right here.
Yeah, that's interesting. Randy, I'm trying to think. So are multiple inserts and then multiple circuit. I'm trying to get creative a little bit, Mark, with, could we use our multi-circuit tool? You use a source arrow just as a circuit, and then you can copy it in there.
So the thing that I have run into, if I make a circuit of a series of wires with source arrows in there, I come up with question marks.
True.
Or now my thought is there a way to modify things to the point where we say, put in a beginning code item or code definition A01 and say, if I want to put 10 source arrows in, I go A1 through A10 and have the system automatically assign that next code to the next source arrow. You see where I'm going?
I love it. I love the plan. out of
I'm
the
just asking if
box.
it's possible.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything's possible, right? Where's Nate Holt when we need him? I bet he could write
Well,
a little.
hold on, because in our SDS toolkit, our cable fan in tool does that just like you're saying. You give
There
it
you
a
go.
cable name and it automatically puts in all of the cable markers, source destination arrows with that. It uses the cable name .1, .2, .3, .4, just like you're describing. It's not out of the box AutoCAD Electrical, it's from our SDS toolkit. So the answer is yes, there's a way to do it, but it's going to require some custom programming.
The only, yeah, and the only other thing I would say, and I still think, I agree with Randy, I still think that you would have to probably do some custom programming. You could, so where I was going with the multiple inserts of things, and I think Armand said the same thing. And I'll just share my screen really fast in electrical. When you go, if any of you didn't know this, in the schematic tab under insert components, there is a multiple insert, and what you described can absolutely be done when you think about doing it with like terminals and things like that, where you can have it concatenate and increase in numbers, and you can do all of that. But in the icon menu for the multiple insert, source and destination arrows, I was actually looking to see if maybe they were deeply embedded in miscellaneous, because I don't ever grab them from here. I grab them immediately from my wires panels, but I was trying to see if they were in here. You could type it. You could browse and find your source arrow, your source arrow increments, and you could find that exact block, and then you have to do the manual increments to it. But I don't think we'd be able to get it to automatically increase with the no. I think to that point, Randy's right. Like, I think you'd have to write a little custom.
Okay. And one other question, if I might ask.
Yeah.
We are finally going to 2022 electrical after 3
Woo!
years. Now, my question comes up that I'm trying to get these guys to go to Vault.
Mm-hmm.
Would it hurt anything for me to pre-install the Vault your client?
Well, you want Vault on before you do electrical 2022, because you're well. Let me back up, Mark. My perfect world is to actually have everything vaulted, which means your catalogs, your symbol libraries, all of the support files. So in that sense, you would want Vault there ahead of time so that you can immediately point the electrical, when you go in to actually say where you want all of those support directories to go, you'd be actually pointing them towards your C drive. It's your Vault workspace, right, Matt? That you'd be.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we would point it to there to look at it at everyone's local C drive when you do your deployment. But at the same time, what we'd want is after that first install, we would move all of the libraries up into Vault. And so those would actually be what people are pulling down to their local. So you would want all of that in place before you install electrical. So it would be good for you to have that there ahead of time.
Yeah, so there is more, I think, to that question and that answer. But to answer your question, is it going to cause any issues if you install the Vault client before the Vault server is set up and installed? No, it's not going to, but you're going to put yourself behind from some of the configuration and setup you need to do through the install, like Tiffany said. Does that make sense, Mark?
They're trying to ask me a question in the meeting.
Oh, I think
We lost you. It's very muffled.
All right. Well, we can come back to Mark. That was a great question about Vault, though.
Yep, and I had Mark's question marked down as well. So
Perfect.
We have another question here from Todd. Todd says, "Good morning," and again, I'll paste it into the chat here, so you can kind of read along with me. So his is about revving up a set of drawings in a project. So now he copies a project to a new project and manually revs it up. Is there a better way to do this? And they're using ACADE.
Okay. So revisions. Great question. Let me just reread. A set of drawings in a project. Say we copy the project to a new project and manually rev it. Oh my. Okay. So let's talk about revisions in general. First of all, most of the time, and I understand that this is not everybody on this call, so take this with a small grain of salt at first, but the intention of revisions often is that people do it at the project level. And so they utilize the project description tools that we have, and you can create as many line items as you want for that automatically link to your title blocks for you to update with revision information. When you do that, it will rev the whole project. It's at the project level for updating your title blocks. Per individual drawings, if that is you, if you are somebody who they don't rev, so there's two schools of thought. If a electrical project changes because of how many pages it can affect and how all the downstream connections are, a lot of people rev the entire project. The whole project is gone from Rev A, it's gone to Rev B, it's gone to Rev C, and so on. If you are not that and you rev individual sheets to mark where changes have happened on individual drawings, that is a little bit trickier in the sense that we can utilize, and I'll show this in a second, I'll share my screen again, where we can utilize the drawing properties and you can massage using other codes in there to have it automatically do that in title block updates. Or you can write your own separate revision code. Now, if you're using Vault, back to what we were just talking about with Matt, that can do the revving natively within Vault as opposed to doing it from an electrical standpoint. So there's a couple ways to take this. To show you quickly what I'm talking about, and let me share my screen again. If I were to look at this drawing's paper space, so if I were to take a look here, I may have a separate area outside of these title block tools that maybe is up here that I keep track of all my revisions. Now, I don't have it on this particular drawing, but if I did, I would right click on the project file. I would come down to my descriptions, and then I may, under where I've renamed line 1, line 2, and so on to match my title block attributes, I may have line 10 now start saying rev letter, and then line 11 is rev date, and then maybe line 12 is rev description, and those all apply to attributes that'll get automatically filled out in the title block. Then when I run my title block update, it automatically updates all title blocks in the project with that new information. And if I need to change it, I then change it to Rev B. Or if I want to keep track of every change that happened from A to B, you just go to the next page and create Rev 2, Rev 3, and so on, so that you can keep filling it out to whatever you need on that. So that's how to do it at a project level. I do have people hack the individual drawing properties and utilize things like section and subsection, since that was really a way to filter our drawings before we had folders. It's an older tool that we had within there, and a lot of people use those for anything they need extra at the drawing level. So here you could define your rev letter and rev date or rev description, and then have that automatically fill out the title blocks and have it be unique per each drawing, because these properties are unique per every drawing if you would need to do that, and it still does the automatic update so that you're not manually activating every rev. And again, there's the Vault aspect as well. Anybody else want to share how they're revving?
We used to do our, when I was working in industry, we did our revs through Vault, and we used the first technique you showed with the project descriptions. We had them set up so that they were actually mapped to Vault properties. And when I incremented the revision of my item in Vault, it would push that down to the project, and then to the drawings from the project. So that's a good way to use it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, hey, this is Armand Beering from Power Engineers too. Hey.
How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you doing, Tiffany?
Good.
One thing too to keep in mind though is if you use the AutoCAD electrical drawing properties, keep in mind that the data in that dialog box too is stored in 2 different places. The drawing descriptions and the section and the subsection are actually stored in your WDP file, your project file, and then your IEC attributes and your sheet and drawing name are stored in the drawing file themselves. So I would probably recommend, if you're not using Vault, I would recommend that you use Vault, but if you're not using Vault, I would recommend that you store the revision in one of the IEC attributes or in the sheet or drawing name attribute if you're not using either one of those.
So it's a good point of where it gets saved. I'm curious why you feel like you wouldn't want it saved in the WDP file, because it's still unique to the individual drawing when it comes to updating. I'm just curious. I think that's great, and I appreciate your comment. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, probably probably just in case. You know,
Okay.
if you use multiple project files that reference the same drawing, then that could muddy those waters. So I just think
that's a conversation in itself too. Do we
Yeah.
want to have that project use or have multiple projects using the same? But really good call out. That makes a lot of sense.
I
Yeah,
just
but I
gave
mean,
a presentation on that last week, Tiffany.
Did you? Tell us more, Randy.
No, let Armand finish.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, just to me, it's just all about data storage, right? If like the revision is specific to the drawing, it should be
Yep.
stored with the drawing, you know, that type of
Fair
thing.
enough. Yeah,
That's it.
makes sense.
Hello, this is Todd.
Hi, Todd.
Hi. So regarding the revision question I had just asked.
Yep.
I'm currently using the project descriptions to update the title blocks and everything like that, but I guess my question's more, I don't want to change the existing files that I have. So like right now we have our, I'll say submittal stage, and that's
Okay.
a revision of drawings. And then when that project moves forward, I copy that submittal project, I'll call it R0, and then I move it up to R1 into a completely new project now. So I can retain my original in submittal files and then my new for production files, for example, right? I use the project descriptions and the drawing properties where necessary and all that stuff. But I guess my question was, is there a way to stay in the same project and accomplish the same goal?
I mean, I think there is, but really what you just described to me is Matt's bread and butter. To me, that is all about Vault. That is what we do in the aspect of lifecycle management. And you could have the different lifecycle stages of those projects and really manage all of that through Vault. Like that's what it's intended for. Matt, I don't know if you want to add to that, but I think that would be.
No, it's kind of back to Chris's point as well. When revisioning is a big conversation that you can have, and there's many ways to do it. Some people find manual workflows, and then there's fully automated workflows that maintain the history. But it can be really tricky to do depending on how you want to show it. You know, if there's a rev table or you're just showing the latest revision. But I'd be interested to entertain that conversation with you further using a Vault solution. Absolutely.
Yeah, this just sounds to me even less about rev tables than it does, if I'm understanding you, Todd, as really, you know, it's a work in progress, it's submittal, it's final stage. It's more of those life cycle stages that I feel like we often set things up in Vault more for. I think we could get you there out of the box in electrical, but I think we'd be creating it through creativity as opposed to utilizing something like a data management package that's intended to do those life cycle stages. But yeah, copying that project consistently is just a data mess because now you've got triple, quadruple, however many stages you go through of that same project. Where instead in something like Vault, you could be going back to those different stages without it being a full copy of every project. It understands the revisions and can go back and manage that.
Right, that's definitely kind of the direction I was looking for, to see if there was a solution built into just AutoCAD Electrical or not.
Yeah, not for that level. I really think you need to explore data management to that level. We can do what Matt just described and what I think a lot of us have been talking about with you know, the project descriptions and updating things that way and putting those rev tables, but to the managing and maintaining revision history, not just description of it, but actual revision history, you really need data management for that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah, you're welcome, Todd. One last thing, Tiffany, did you have?
Yeah. I was going to ask Randy to maybe tell us a little more on the little blurb he gave. Did you talk about maybe the benefits of sharing a drawing across multiple projects. Is that what you were saying? You just gave a presentation on?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the utility industry very frequently has projects that could easily reach 1,000 drawings.
Absolutely.
And you might have a team of people working on those drawings. So it comes down to, you can create sub-projects to carry all them. But the caution is AutoCAD Electrical does not officially support sub-projects, right? So don't take that as it's a big fancy feature in AutoCAD Electrical. It requires manual manipulation and work to make happen. And you have to have the project, all of the drawings in the main project in order to share and update any connectivity between them, right? So those are the 2 big points that are happening with it. Actually, the one big point is the projects are not aware of each other, right? So that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's what requires all the manual pieces. You have to create a workflow and manage that, because if a drawing's in 2 projects, the last project to edit that drawing is the winner, whoever that is. So you have to be very careful of that. And there's no checks and balances. That's why it's not an official AutoCAD electrical thing. And you can even have them in Vault, but that also requires, from my testing, Matt might even be able to do some more work with that. You have to be very careful about that. If the last project that checks in the drawings also takes over control of that drawing in Vault. So what I found is if you want to check in the sub project, you check that in by itself. Just check in the project file itself, not the drawings with it. The drawings should only be checked in with the main project or by themselves. So don't tie those 2 together. Those are the big points that I talked about last week.
Are you talking about kind of the parent-child relationship in Vault between the project and the drawings, Randy?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yes.
I don't often refer to that as parent-child, but that's very interesting. Yeah.
It is like that, right? So
the
main project would be the parent, and it'd have the children, and then you have uncles that would be the sub projects.
Yeah,
right?
You got the Uncle Randy project.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh! Oh, don't have that crazy Uncle Randy. You got to watch out for that uncle. All right. No, I think that's a really fascinating. Sorry, go ahead, Randy.
I was going to say, did you know that when most people find out I'm not an electrician, they're usually shocked?
Oh, and their Uncle Randy has now entered this call. Thank you for that. And the dad joke.
Permanently.
I needed that today. Thank you, Randy. That was amazing.
You're welcome. I have more if you need more.
I need somebody on the back side that can do the for us. So that's what I need. I need somebody with sound effects. Oh my goodness. All right. So actually, I think that discussion though is something that could be. I think we could actually have a much deeper discussion around that, because I think everything you brought up, Randy, is really crucial. I think that there's aspects of that though that lean towards a lot of the best practices that I share with electrical users of encouraging that you actually look at templates when you're building electrical for the first time. When you're setting up your first electrical project, you think of your template as not just a WDT file, not just an AutoCAD template, but you actually think about what a template project would mean to you as a company. And perhaps it's 5 major templates that you have because of different machines you're supporting or configurations you're doing or whatever it may be. Maybe it's internal customers you have, maybe it's external customers, but you look at that and you templatize that, and then you copy that whole project every time you're creating your new, whatever that opportunity is for, like I said, either an internal customer or if you have an external customer, depending on how you work. But you always go back to those main templates as the things that you edit and change, as opposed to trying to go, oh, we did a project kind of like that 2 years ago. What was that name of that? Finding that project, copying it, and then trying to make those edits to it. If you have a core project set that you utilize, or a couple core project sets that you utilize, and can continue making your updates and your changes there, you can copy that, or even sections of it, as the sub projects we may say, to bring into your next project, but not necessarily having it be natively referenced by multiple projects. You can do that. It's actually a great feature of electrical. But to Randy's point, you run risks when you want to update title blocks and things like that, that it's whatever is the latest project using it is now updating it. So I like every project can be its own standalone thing. And so I would rather copy it into my project than have it be edited. Now you can definitely make the arguments, well, I want to change it in one place and have it change everywhere, and that's fair. But oftentimes when we're done, going back to the submittals conversation of revisions, if we're making changes like that, that's not actually showing the in time use of that project. And so now we're making edits to maybe older projects that weren't set up that way. So if we go back to try to use them, the data is not the same because we're now linked to a file that's not referenced. So I think there's a lot of things you can unpack with that of what is a best practice and what you want to do with it. But I do think, Randy, to your point of lots of people being in it, similar drawing sets, thousands of drawings, there's an opportunity there to build up your perfect project, that template project, and then use sections of that or entire projects, depending on what you need in new opportunities or new projects that you have coming. I also think the sub project thought process has been one that's come up often. And the thing that I love about folders inside the project manager is actually the fact that we can treat every folder almost like a sub project, where you can run a project-wide update on just that subfolder. Now you can do that on anything. Project-wide update, as all of you know, is just anything more than your individual active drawing, but it makes it easier. You can say, do it all on this folder or on these two folders. And so there's a way to have that manage itself a bit like a sub project under a main project. So I really look at the folders we now have as an opportunity to do that subfolder technology with a bit more automation than it being super manual. But all fair points there, Uncle Randy. I like all of this.
Well, I'll give out two other points why
Okay.
it's very advantageous. Number one, when you have that large project of 1,000 different drawings in it, the processing time to do anything goes up considerably. So if you have a sub project that only has 20 drawings or so in it, everything works much faster. So that's a big point to having sub projects. The other one might be if you don't have Vault and you don't have consistent paths and things on your different systems, you can have a setup or a sub project on, say, my machine, and you could have one on yours with different paths, and somebody is the main guy, right? So we could be accessing the same folders, the same thing for the main project, but when I'm doing my work, my paths, little symbol libraries and things are different. Doesn't matter. When I save the drawings, they're put back in the main folder. You're the main project person. You update or do anything, that's where the real ones live. So there are some neat advantages to it. And the other thing with this is kind of what you're saying there with all these different projects and copying them. You would make sure all of those WDP files and all of the drawings are in the same folder all of the time, right? That's one of those things you have to do. You would not want to keep them separated into different folders. That main project is going to always be the main piece. You're just building these sub ones to help you out in the short term.
Yeah, Randy and I are totally on the same team with this too. I did a sub project presentation in 2019 as well.
Did you?
Yeah, about brownfield at the consortium at AU. But yeah, no, those are totally benefits. And one of the things I covered in my presentation too was that while most of the commands have the select drawings to process and you could choose subfolder and stuff like that, not all of them do. So like electrical audit is an example of one that doesn't. It's either project wide or it's active drawing, and you just can't process that in a project of 1,000 drawings. It just takes forever. So yeah, that's one of the reasons. And I've always been a proponent of like how we should be set up, at least in our industry, of have one project for the entire substation, and then have a project that only accesses a subset of those drawings in that station per job order or per work order. But the neat thing again about AutoCAD Electrical is once your whole station is converted to AutoCAD Electrical, you can use component reports, and you can find out, okay, what are the drawings that I need to modify based on what I'm retrofitting, what am I removing, what am I adding, what panels am I modifying. And so you can get all that data up front with the reports. But where it's a little bit advanced, like Randy is saying, is like you have to know when to switch back and forth, like when to have your station project active and when to have your sub project active. So that's where it gets a little tricky. So it is a bit more advanced, but I agree agree with Randy. I think there are a lot of benefits to it.
So tell me though, how is it, because you don't need to process the whole project if you're doing it by folder. Wouldn't it be easier to do that with folders than doing them as actual separate projects? I'm just curious.
I mean,
Well,
it
I think
probably, yeah.
it just depends on the size of the project. If you're dealing with 20 or 30 or 40 drawings, the subfolder thing will work great. But when you get 1,000 drawings, now the tool still needs to process almost all of those 1,000 drawings. It has to go through that database. It gets huge to work with. That's going to be one of the big advantages.
Yeah.
And how often when you guys are using a drawing across other projects, do you use the for reference only aspect so it doesn't update, but it's just in there to be included in the package?
Well, that'll happen relatively frequently as well, depending on your work process. And I'll also mention that in the utility industry, especially, we have a lot of tools like the wire annotation tools and things like that, specifically for the industry, that need to process all of the drawings in the project in order to work. And again, it's just one of those things that if you can break it out into smaller pieces, instead of dealing with 1,000, you're only dealing with 50 or 100. It just works better. Or it can work better, right? Everything works. It's just a way to speed up some of these processes.
Yeah.
This almost sounds like a great topic for an individual session where we talk just about this.
I agree.
There we go. I think Armand just volunteered.
Yeah. I hear a team up together. Armand, I love your use of emojis, by the way. You are rocking it on being able to use these emojis in Zoom. Good job. Yeah, I like the Armand and Randy special. I think that sounds awesome.
Kate, I don't think that was fair.
Let's set it up next month, everybody.
We'll call the session Armandy.
Oh, no.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. That might have actually just made my day, Randy. That would have trumped your dad joke.
That is just sad.
Brilliant.
I think we have a little bit.
Hit me with some more questions while we have 5 more minutes, because I think I need to save Chris 5. So.
Yeah, so this might be an easy one for you, Tiffany. Are there significant improvements to 2022 from 2021?
Great question. Yeah, I think I noticed that one as it came in, and there was a bit of a question there around that migrating was a bit of a lift. And while I don't want to light or lessen that comment, because I do know that moving from any software from one version to another can be a bit of a lift. I do want to encourage you all. We've talked about it a lot for anybody who has attended these in the past, but for anybody that's new, there is something called a migration utility inside of electrical. And my encouragement to you is update with every release, because the lift is way bigger when you try to jump 3 releases or 5 releases. If you jump every release, it is far less painful, and the migration utility will make it so much easier for you. Now, don't just go into migration utility and hit the OK button. You need to actually look at it, because when you see that it will see a 2020 on your computer and you now want to go to 2022, you have them both installed. So don't uninstall the old one before you install the new one. Keep them both on your computer. And then have it go through, and you get to tell it what do you want to do. Do you want to merge your libraries? Do you want to merge your catalog database? If there's an older file compared to the new one, which one wins? Most of the time you want the old one to win, because the old one probably has anything special you've added to it, right? Like your own part numbers under the user 1 field within the catalog database. But you want to make sure if it finds something new, that gets merged in. You don't want to just port over your old symbol library or your old catalog database and lose all the new things that have come in with it. So my advice to you is use the migration utility, dig into it, and try to do those updates every year, because it will feel less painful than doing it after a 3-year leap or a 4-year leap or a 5-year leap. Now, back to your point, I didn't have that set up for today's call. I do want to take you guys through the new things. The biggest thing is we actually had quite a bit. I started the call with this, but there were quite a bit of updates around manufacturer content. So we had a lot of updates from Rockwell, I think Schneider Electric, Siemens. Don't quote me on all of these. I need to go back and look at the list, but there were quite a few updates with our symbol libraries and our catalog databases in this latest release. And there were actually some things that got updated from the ideas station and ideas that actually came out of this call. I met with the product team last year ahead of this, and I did a session for any of you that attended it last year around updates that we wanted to see in the software. And so they've been taking feedback from these calls and the info that I provide them on things that they can make additional updates to the software on. So stay tuned. We'll probably do that again this year for next year's release. All right. Is there anything? I think there's something that just came in.
Yeah, and that might be better to tackle. We do have a couple other questions, but it might take a little bit more additional time. So
okay,
maybe Tiffany, if you want to answer some of those. Newer libraries be backwards installed to 2020 or 2021?
So that's a great question. If I don't know why you would want to necessarily, because if you're going to install the software and you're going to do the upgrade, you already have those libraries and the new software, you might as well use the new software to have all the benefits of it. But to answer your question, as long as it's not you trying to use, because I'd have to test it, libraries from like now to moving back 10 years ago release where it can't process it the same way, they're typically just the Access database files or Excel files, depending on like what support files we're talking about updating, or new blocks for the symbol libraries. So yes, all of those things should in theory be able to be used in 2020 or 2021 from the 2022 release, but don't quote me on that. I mean, I can't obviously say that without testing it, but I can't imagine that there's anything that would cause those problems. But if you're going to get your hands on 2022 anyway, I would just encourage you to move to that full release. Good deal. All right. Well, with that, I think I am right about my time and I need to head back to Chris. But thank you all so much for your participation. Thank you to everybody who spoke up and jumped in, especially Uncle Randy. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you being on video and joining our calls.
Wow.
And Tron from his hammock.
But, Randy, you need to make your jokes just a little bit more current if you can handle that.
Hey, did you hear about the guy who got all of his light bulbs stolen?
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
Randy, what? I heard the next one. Wait, what about the light bulb stolen? What?
Yeah, the guy who had his light bulbs stolen. He was delighted.
They're amazing. It's amazing. It makes my day every time.
Okay, we need to just stop.
Yes, Chris, please save us.
All right, please note, everyone, that Kate has put the link to this session into the chat, and you can continue the conversation on that link. There is a comment section on there, so please, before we sign off today, everybody get a look at that in the chat window and maybe bookmark that site. So with that, I'm going to get my screen back up here. So thank you for attending today's session, and we hope to see you at the next one, of course. On our community conversation site, you can RSVP now. This session is held every second Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So our next session will be June 10th, followed by July 8th, and we are taking a break in August, but we'll be back in September. So are you looking for any other ways to connect and engage in the Autodesk community? There's all kinds of great opportunities for you here. You can explore the various communities, including the global network of user groups in the Autodesk Group Network, our industry-focused communities where we help colleagues solve business challenges together, the Autodesk forums, of course, and stay connected with us on social media on Twitter and Facebook, including several new Facebook groups that we've created for specific products like AutoCAD, Vault, Inventor, Revit Architectural, and Fusion 360. And I believe Kate has just posted the links to all of those resources for you in the chat. So please take advantage of all of those and continue the conversation as much as possible. So thank you for attending again. We welcome your feedback about the experience today, and we're going to be putting a survey into the chat, I believe. Are you going to put that in there, Kate? And we hope that you all stay connected in the community and that we see you here next time. Oh, no survey by email later. All right, so Kate's going to send out the survey by email. Please give us your feedback. We'd like to know how you feel about these sessions and what works, what doesn't work. Maybe comment about Randy's jokes, you know, so we can improve those for next time. And I think that wraps it up for today. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Matt.